Trey, push that button.
And nasty. Host Randy Chevrier and Sheldon Napashka guide you through great stories that spark great conversations. Two really big guys talking a big game. The boys are locked in and ready to go. Welcome to The Ride.
Welcome to The Ride. I'm your host, Sheldon Napashik, with my co-host, Randy Chevrier, and we are back for episode 87. Jamin, showtime. Todd, welcome back to the show. Chad Smith. But I got to say, Young Trey, bringing back a song from the 90s. Well, that was 90s, wasn't it? Bush X?
Yeah, Bush. Well, they were Bush. Are they Bush or Bush X to you?
Oh, they're Bush.
They're Bush. But you know what? In Canada, they were actually Bush X. If I recall, there was some sort of copyright infringement only in Canada. That in Canada, they had to market their music only as Bush X. They couldn't use the name Bush because I believe there was a band that had a Canadian trademark or something of that nature. So they had to rebrand themselves. And in Canada, they were Bush X, and that's how they marketed themselves.
I thought that was worldwide, though, wasn't it?
No, I think they're Bush everywhere else except for Canada. And you know what? Things were marketed differently back in the day. And we're going to talk a little bit about that marketing and how the world of messaging and like advertising has evolved and content creation and content consumption has evolved. We'll talk about a little bit about that on this 87th episode, brought to you by Performance Freight Management, our good friend Daryl McAvina. We Drone Real Estate Media, that's our good friend Sheldon Napashik, who happens to be sitting, I guess, across from me. And YYC Business, our other good friend, Bruno Lindia, tanning in Florida with like the good fellas. Guys, we appreciate that you join us every week, from Jamin to Todd, Chad Smith. And we know that it's one of those things, you tuck yourself in at night, you had a long day at work, you brush your teeth, maybe you have your last tea, your little snack, maybe have you pee, and now you're tucked into bed. And we like being those guys that tuck you into sleep and talk about silly sports stories, silly poetry, anything going on. And tonight for our 87th episode, we've been waiting for this one for a while. And so, especially as Daryl's been waiting for this one. This is a big one. 87. We always talk about the great athletes that represented jersey numbers. Is there any more recognizable 87 than this guy right here, Sid the Kid?
I don't think I was ever aware of another NHL hockey player had ever watched that. I think chat came up and said Mike Bossy back in the day, but I'm pretty sure that was wrong.
Yeah, no, I think that was wrong.
Sidney Crosby owns number 87, and I mean that's going to be a number right up there, close with Gretzky in the 99. Yeah, for sure.
Let's talk about that for a second. Let's talk about, you said close with Gretzky. First of all, 3 Stanley Cups, 2 Conn Smythes, 2 Hart trophies as the league MVP, 2 Art Ross. I mean, 2 Rocket Richards, Olympic gold medals. I mean, he's done it all, literally done it all. But in terms of Canadian hockey, and in terms of people who consume hockey like it's air, he played for an American team. Does that not affect, because people who know hockey know he's great, but did that affect his luster as maybe the greatest of all time? Like, where does he sit? You said Gretzky. We talk about guys like Gretzky, Lemieux, Ovechkin, Connor McDavid. We talk about these guys all the time. Where does he sit for you, Sheldon?
I'm probably biased towards Gretzky because he was my guy when I was a kid, right? But yeah. I think he's right there at number 2. Right. But there's going to be guys with 10 years on me that are going to be biased towards like Gordie Howe and some of the other greats that came before him as well. Right. So
fair enough.
At this point, if you're up on that wall in the top 3 to top 5, you're legendary. And that's as useless as arguing Kobe versus Michael Jordan versus, you go down the list of who you want to compare in any sport. But he's up there. He's earned it. But 87 certainly was not a common number in hockey. In any era that I remembered.
Okay, how does he compare to Connor McDavid? Because now we talk about the future. I mean, Connor McDavid is the now and the future. Sidney Crosby filled that gap for a long time when a lot of stars retired. You're talking about the end of the Gretzky era, the end of the Yzerman era. The end of a lot of eras started with Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin. I believe they came out at the same time. And Ovechkin, one of the greatest pure goal scorers of our time, but not one of the greatest players of all time.
Yeah.
But now we have Connor McDavid. And Connor McDavid is that generational talent that I don't care, even if you cheer for the team's arch rival, when that guy is on the ice, you just say, God, I wish he was on my team.
Yeah, but you know what though? Everyone that you named has got a cup. And that's going to be the thing with Connor McDavid. Boy, he sure skates in there fast. Wow, look at that move. But if that's all he's got, he's yet to elevate his game to the point he can take a team on his back. And you can maybe argue that some of these guys have played for stronger teams in the past, but the Oilers were good enough to win if they had the will to find the way to do it. That's what Connor McDavid needs. Talk to me in 5 years, 3 years, maybe next year.
No, wait, let's play this.
He's on the list.
Let's play this game like we were kids sitting on the park. We're comparing Superman to the Hulk. You're the GM of the next brand new NHL team. You've got a 20-year-old Sidney Crosby and a 20-year-old Connor McDavid. You got a crystal ball to know how each of these guys play. So you know how they play. You don't know what hardware you're going to win with them, but you know exactly what you're going to get with each one of them. Who are you drafting?
At this point, you got to go with Sidney. If you know that he's going to lead a team to gold medals and to
no, you don't know that. You don't know what he's going to win. You just know the type of player he's going to be.
Yeah, that's a tough one. That's a tough one. I mean, I think I love Connor McDavid. Don't get me wrong. I'm not making any argument that guy's not like, potentially one of the greatest players of all time. But it comes down to, I think, the leadership skills that a guy like Sidney Crosby has. And yeah, he could be a whiner, but that's just, that's how he expresses his competitiveness. But the fact that he's able to take different iterations of the Pittsburgh Penguins over the last 15 years and win with them. I mean, there's just something to said for his intrinsic leadership abilities and his abilities to rally the team around him.
You know what? I'm going to take the flip side. If I was a GM and I had to make the choice right now, as much as I love Sidney Crosby, and I'm going to take away all his wins because I said I don't know but I know how he plays. I'm taking Connor McDavid. I have never seen now Crosby's great. He's made great plays, scored great goals.
There's a lot of excitement when he came into the league. It was the same thing as when Connor did.
Yeah, but I have not seen a player consistently make the top players in the world-class athletes, look like midget AAA players on the ice with him. And that's what Connor McDavid does pretty much every night he is on the ice. He does things. Well, you know what? The Oilers' problems are deeper than McDavid, and a lot of times they run as far back as the crease. But let's move on, because again, this is such an intriguing 87th episode, and usually we skim by this if it's not interesting. But you know what? In another sport, you got two of the greatest modern day memorable 87s you can find, and here is another debate. You are the GM of an NFL team, and you are about to pick the tight end that's going to lead your franchise. Do you pick 87, Rob Gronkowski, or 87, Taylor Swift's lover, Travis Kelce? Who are you going to pick?
You know what? You can't go wrong with either. But for me, it is the pure intimidation factor that Gronk brought to the table. I mean, guys didn't want to tackle him when he got a head of steam and he leaned forward. I mean, he was a wrecking ball. And Chev, you've probably run into guys like that before. A guy that's as tall as you, weighs as much as you, but is way faster than you, and he's coming right at you. It's intimidating and it hurts. Gronkowski was like a difference maker. Not saying Kelce wasn't. Obviously, he's got some of the best playoff stats of all times as well. But just for pure intimidation factor, and if I ever needed an extra offensive tackle, I could stick him in there. I could probably play him at defensive line, and he'd probably get me 11 sacks that season. I mean, he was just a physical stud, and the mindset to just dominate.
Yeah, I'm a Gronk fan. I love the Gronk, but I mean, Travis Kelce is impressive as a pure receiver. He's made the tight end position dangerous. Rob Gronkowski made the tight end position a mismatch. Like, he was a mismatch. He's 6'7", just a ridiculous freak of an athlete, humongous hands, but he could also block. He wasn't Tom Brady's number one target, but he was Tom Brady's safety outlet. And as much as Travis Kelce is the safety outlet many times for Pat Mahomes, the beauty of Travis Kelce is a lot of times he's their number one receiver. And when he's not their number one receiver, he's usually very productive and finds a way to get the ball and make big plays. And the Super Bowl a couple of years ago, they didn't use him in the first half, and then they just decided to go with him. And who was it they played? Was it Philly? I can't remember who it was. Didn't have an answer for him. There was no answer for it was the 49ers. No answer for Travis Kelce. So two different players, but I mean, you can't argue with the Gronk. And what gives me the edge for the Gronk is this. When Tom Brady made his comeback with Tampa and he went to the Buccaneers, the first guy that he needed on his side was Rob Gronkowski. And I don't know if Tom Brady wins that Super Bowl, which happened to be Gronkowski's fourth, if Gronk wasn't there.
Yeah.
And that's why I would pick him, because what he did and what he can do and what he brings to a team, it's kind of unmatched. But again, I'm not taking away from Kelce, because his story's still not done. He had an off year last year, but he's still a dominant player, and he's still producing. You know, when Gronk all said and done, he had 92 touchdowns, and that's pretty good. Kelce's at about 74, but almost 4,000 yards more. So two different guys, two very good, both going to be Hall of Famers. I mean, with the amount of hardware they got on their fingers, this is almost, pick Sidney Crosby or pick Connor McDavid. This is the same type of thing with just a different athlete. You can't go wrong with either. If one falls off the board, the other one's the guy. But fun conversations to have on a night where we have really great athletes to talk about. But other fun things to do on a Tuesday night that we always do is some 300-pound poetry. So, Sheldon, are you ready to kick it off? I mean, we've kicked it off already. This is the segue into the next.
A bit of a late pump tonight, but I'm ready. Chev, you ready? Trey? Trey,
Do it.
cue it up.
And now, 300-pound poetry with Chevy and Nasty.
And listen up quick. This is the Tuesday Night Ride and our 300-pound shtick.
If you had $7 billion to pay Dana White, would you do like Paramount did so they can air every single UFC fight?
Maybe. NFL preseason continues. Shedeur Sanders got his shot. He may have silenced some haters, but Colin Cowherd thinks not.
The Stamps sweat the Bombers. Fajardo beat the Owls. If Trey Smiths beats Trey Ford in a bar, are they no longer pals?
Probably not. He'll let us know. It appears in Nova Scotia, you can get fined for fishing, camping, and hiking. They are so about wildfires, but does the ban extend to hiking?
As usual, this ride has many twists and turns. Our show's like an itch that you can't scratch. You listen, because it burns.
Oh, yeah. Good timing on that, too.
It burns?
Yeah, it's like we're like a rash. We're like a rash for.
That sounds more like a rash than an itch. Yeah.
Yeah, we're a rash for Chad Smith, the Dine and Dash dad, joining us, and Cozy and Jamin and whoever else is here tonight. Yeah, we're your rash, and you can scratch us all night, but we're not going away till about 11:30. So, it is the ride, episode 87, as we mentioned. We mentioned Travis Kelce, and I think tomorrow's going to be big news in the world. It might not be big news for us, but there's a segment of the world that's going to stop at 7 p.m. tomorrow and go on to Spotify, go on to Apple Music, go on to wherever they consume content, and they are going to be all in. And this is probably millions and millions and millions of people to consume Taylor Swift's new album. What is it called? The Diary of a Showgirl? The Showgirl's Paradise?
The life of
the
a
life. So is she the showgirl? Do we know? What do we know about this album so far?
Yeah, I don't know if we have to know anything more than she's come out with another album, which is going to absolutely have a blip on the world's economic standpoint. The amount of money that's going to be changing hands over this thing tomorrow is going to be incredible.
So why is it important that we bring this up? Because obviously, there's there he is, Travis Kelce, Taylor Swift. Why? Why?
I just think it's pretty cool how much the world has changed since when we grew up back in the 1900s. I mean, here she comes out on a sports podcast
right,
with the pop culture royalty, bigger than Meghan Markle and Prince Harry and Andrew and those guys, and makes the announcement on his show. Like that is massive. Like we had the whole conversation last year. Who's bigger than who? And obviously Taylor Swift is bigger than almost in some ways than the NFL.
Yeah.
So I thought it was pretty insane that she came out there and did this on his show. I mean, that's again, if you think about it though, that's smart business. The Swifties knew it was coming. The Chevys and Nasties, we didn't know this was coming.
No clue.
But we do now. We're talking about it. She just brought in another, 350 million people aware that she's releasing an album tomorrow. And we're talking about it. So of course it's big.
And she's going to get the hate, right? Like there's all the haters from the NFL fans, that are so uptight about how they consume their NFL. How they consume it. They don't want to see Taylor Swift's face on the screen every 3 minutes, which was probably reduced to 5 to 10 by the playoffs. They don't want to hear how much of a football fan she is. They don't want to hear it. But that doesn't stop things from happening. Just because you didn't want to trade in your VHS doesn't mean that Blu-ray wasn't coming. Just because you wanted to keep Blockbuster didn't mean that Netflix wasn't coming. And when Blockbuster failed, it's because they didn't get with the times. And here's a woman, she is, some people see her as she's a woman and she is a marketing genius. And I'm sure she's got a really major PR firm and marketing mega machine behind her. But some of this is her creativity. And to do what she's doing, and again, like you said, I know nothing about this except the other day I flip on Instagram, I see the clip of her talking with Jason Kelce and Travis, and she pulls out the album that she's holding. It's blurred out because it doesn't get seen until tomorrow, and it piqued my interest. And this is this is not just her waking up in the morning and say, hey, hon, can I come on your podcast? We'll just talk. Yeah, sure. This is planned. And I talked to Brittany. And her daughter is a huge Swiftie. Her daughter's 12 years old. And, Brittany knows a little bit more a lot more than I do about this. And she said, the brilliant thing is she's been dropping hints about this in her last album, in her last tour, how she presented herself, and what is it doing? Not only is it getting people to anticipate everything she's doing going forward, and everyone's going to be tuning in tomorrow, but between whenever she dropped this little hint on the New Era, New Heights podcast to tomorrow night, people are going back and consuming her content and watching concerts online and watching, I don't know anything about this, so don't quote me on this, but it's like her orange era. I guess every album cover she has, you can even see it right there. Brand new album. What colors it say? Orange. Every album.
Do you say you don't know? I had no idea that there was colors.
I just found this out, that every album of hers was associated with a color. And when she left her last concert on her Eras tour, she left through an orange door, apparently. So people are going back to look for, just like I'm a geek about Marvel stuff, and I know all the crap you can know about Marvel and superhero stuff. She does this for her fans, and they eat it up and they spend the money, and it's smart marketing, and it's the way of the future. Like, if you don't get with the times, you get left behind. And another person we mentioned in the poem, that's definitely not getting left behind because he got with the times, is Dana White.
Yeah, Dana White. It comes out today announcing, what was it? You said $7.7 billion. And I think best of all for UFC fans is, I know one of the reasons I stopped watching this religiously is I just got tired of paying for the pay-per-views. And pay-per-view was like your old VCR. It felt archaic, right? Yeah. It was the only way that you could consume the UFC, though, for the past 30 years. But they get with the times and sign like a really big streaming contract. Chev, what do you know about that? Because I hear it's with Paramount Plus, but it's also with CBS.
Yeah, so it's Paramount Plus and CBS. And just to your point, before I get into what I know about it, which is not too much, except there's 7 billion reasons to talk about it. I got out of the UFC because it got watered down for me. It got watered down for me because, we're at like UFC, I don't know what, 258. I don't know what we're at, but like we're at Super Bowl, what is it? 50, 40, that I don't know what Super Bowl, but like, so yeah, UFC 315. At some point, you either got to change what you call them because the numbering system is just not working for it. Cause it like, you're cycling through these pay-per-views. And like you said, they're pay-per-views. So people have to physically pay to watch this product that, it's watered down. They don't have it. You can't maintain the level of stardom that, say, boxing does, or because champions, they pick and select their fights. They're not fighting they're fighting maybe 2 fights a year, if that. The UFC is like going through their stable of guys as much as they can, as quick as they can, cashing in, cashing out. And that's why guys don't have longevity. You talk about like the long-term athletes in this sport, Conor McGregor, George St. Pierre, anyway, John Bone Jones. I can't even name the new guys because for me, it got watered down when it was like almost every month there was a pay-per-view. And it's like, you gotta pull back on that, in my opinion, scale back to get the interest back up, create some stars and really go forward with quality fights.
This might be a way to really do it too, though, because you're going along with that. I don't know if CBS is just going to cover the fights. You're going to have to get a Paramount subscription. For whatever, $10-15 a month. But you're going to get the behind the scenes. And the one thing that we know about streaming is it is an amazing vessel to put out really cool content. I mean,
yes,
it goes from there out to the socials, but you can watch it like the long form, getting to know the guys, watching them train, building the drama. I mean, I think it's a good move. I'm honestly a little bit surprised it didn't happen sooner. But when you're dealing with a company like this big, like Trey was saying in the chat earlier, that Paramount Plus is only like a $5 or $6 billion company, and they just signed a $7.7 billion deal. I mean, this is big dollars, big advertising.
Betting on the future. Betting on the future. Look at Gary Bettman. When Gary Bettman signed that, $4 billion deal with Sportsnet, he took it away from CBC, took it away from TSN. He signed on that, And that doubled. I think they doubled down on the deal. That deal expired just last year, and I think now the NHL deals it was like $12 billion. It's actually 3 times that because the value is there. The value is there for the people that invested in it. And Paramount's going to turn that $7 billion probably into $17 billion pretty quickly. And when we got into this topic, we talked about the blockbusters of the world. Adapt or die, right? And for me, I look at these sorts of things, and I always look back to the sports league that I like the most. We're going to talk about it later, the CFL. The CFL has historically had such a hard time at adapting to change. Now, they got a new commissioner, Johnson, I believe is his name. And don't quote me on that because I didn't look it up before. I didn't even know I was going there. But
Johnson sounds good.
Yeah, Johnson sounds good. He comes over from TSN, and my vision for the CFL is a few things, like you mentioned. One, my vision is expansion. Because you need more teams, you need more content. If you don't have more content, people will tune out. We've talked about this. It's why Luke Wilson, was able to crap all over the CFL a few weeks ago because there was a crappy game on TV and no alternatives. Perfect. Get on streaming platforms. They started with Amazon this year, but what I think further than that creates the content, like you said. Not just the content of the games, but the stories of the players, and you look at Ryan Reynolds. He bought that Wrexham FC soccer team in England. They were like a Division 3 division. I don't know what they were, but he put them on Apple Plus. He turned it into a viewing experience, and the fans started coming, and guess what? The team started winning, and they moved up in divisions. All because of the infusion of excitement, which after excitement follows cash, and then follows investment, and then people want to play there, and people want to be there, and he created an environment. And so just let me finish this thought. If the CFL could get on that train, and in my opinion, get onto a platform like Netflix, get onto a platform like Apple Plus on Amazon, and even entice, I know this sounds crazy pie in the sky, but even entice those companies to actually purchase a CFL franchise. Like your Netflix, you buy a CFL franchise, you stick it in Moncton or Halifax. You don't care if there's 5,000 people showing up to the game or 10,000. You know why? Because all you want to do is create content. And if you could create content for your business, your main business is the streaming platform, you are winning. And then the CFL wins because now there's more games on TV. There's more opportunity to showcase players and highlights and all that. And I think if you could get those big $1 billion companies to say, hey, we'll fork over, $5 million for a CFL team? Like, it's peanuts. These guys can own a franchise in a small market town and turn it into an event and turn it into the boost that the CFL needs. That's me seeing the future.
They could do that in a semi-pro cricket league in India too, though. Well, you know what? I think I love the idea of streaming. I'd love to see them get involved. We need a Ryan Reynolds, right? We need Vernon Adams Jr. to find his Taylor Swift. So I apologize to VA's wife because I'm sure their relationship's going great.
But it can't be gimmicky.
You need that star power. But that was all authentic. Like Taylor Swift and Kelsey was authentic. Reynolds, I mean, he just anything he does is going to get massive following. I don't want a gimmick, but at some point there's going to have to be something big and exciting that's worth talking about. Because I'll tell you what, I watched the games, and we'll talk about this in the second segment. What a fantastic 4-game set that we had to watch. The product is excellent right now, but the people aren't showing up and the ratings are down, and that's the problem that we're going to have to fix. But
we'll fix that in the next segment. We got to take a quick break, guys. Thanks for tuning in. We went a little long with this, but as always, you can catch us at Chevy and Nasty on all your social media channels. And you can pick up our podcast, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, or the audio podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and Amazon Music. Guys, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get back. We're going to talk about last week's CFL action and a couple of other events and upcoming guests. All that when we get back on the ride.
Performance Freight Management is a global logistic freight shipping company that will handle the entire shipping process for any package to any country. Whether it be a simple truck shipment from your office to Toronto or your company importing generators from China, PFM Freight handles it all. We have the expertise and technology to handle any shipping requirements. Skip the guesswork and let us take the shipping pain off your plate.
Do you want your business to be known? YYCCalgaryBusiness.ca is Calgary's only online media platform that gets you noticed. Short-form video content is rapidly taking over as the most effective way to engage your audience. Whether you're being interviewed on a vodcast, sharing a sizzle reel, or even hosting your own show, there is one place you can publicize your business. We want to tell your story and introduce you to our network of empowered business owners and leaders right here in Calgary. Isn't it time you took your digital game to 11? Call us or email us now.
Welcome back to The Ride with Chevy and Nasty. I'm Chevy. He's Nasty. We're brought to you each week by Performance Freight Management, We Drone Real Estate Media, and YYC Business. And we have to give a shout out to our intrepid producer, Trey Smith. We mention him lots on the show, and sometimes he makes an appearance, but he's definitely there all week, making sure we look good and appear on time. Sheldon, before we get into the CFL talk, I was driving in my car the other day, and I was listening to the radio, and maybe, since the last 2 years that we've gotten back on the air and we talk about men's health and men's mental health, my radar has been picking up, a little bit more talk. Like you just kind of gravitate towards it. And I was listening to a local radio station, our buddy Jock Wilson on Sports Talk with Jock. And he was talking about an upcoming event. And it really caught my attention. It's the 10th annual Evan Skoron Memorial Golf Tournament. Now, Evan Skoron was a young lad, and unfortunately, he took his own life. He committed suicide, and his folks, his dad, Mark Skoron, was the gentleman I was listening to, and he was talking about this event. Now, we've done a lot to support mental health. We talk about mental health often on our show. We have guests to talk about mental health. We had the men's mental health movie night that we put on with our great friend Daryl McAvina and the mental health movement, and we're building that more and more into a movement. We've appeared at the Calgary Firefighters Pensioners Association golf tournament, Calgary Stampeders alumni golf tournament, and really trying to get the word out. I know tonight that Daryl had a meeting with what eventually will be the brain trust of the mental health movement, and I thought this is something we got to talk about. I reached out to Mark today. I spoke to him. So Mark is Evan's dad, and we just had an open and honest talk. And this is a gentleman whose life was rocked by a suicide, like many families. And if you have been touched by suicide in your life, you know how devastating it can be, and how shameful it can appear, how isolating and insulating it can be. And we talked about all those things, but the difference here is that not only do they share the same pain as everyone, but they decided to go outside of the home and really share the message. Like when I speak to Mark, he has no qualms about saying my son committed suicide. He doesn't hide it. He doesn't, sometimes people say, well, that person passed tragically due to mental health or whatever, but he really labels it what it was and what it is. And this event, it's the 10th annual event. They've raised over $200,000 for the suicide prevention center. I believe that's what it is.
Center for Suicide Prevention.
Center for so $200,000 they've raised. Last year was about $20,000 a year. They have a great event. It's going to be at the Springbank Links And they're going to do, you go to the Trop, which is a very famous local bar. I've never been. Have you been to the Trop?
No,
Really?
I haven't. No, I haven't.
Really, it's a great bar. A lot of people go. I know a lot of Stampeders used to go there. You go to the Trop, you start your day there. And then after that, the bus drives you to your golf tournament. You do your golf tournament. Then you go back. The bus takes you back to the Trop for post-game meal and prizes. And so what they're looking for is foursomes that want to golf. And so it's $150 per player. So foursome, I don't know. And now Trey's the guy. Like, I'm not a big golfer, so I don't even know if that's reasonable or not, but seems reasonable to me if you're a golfer. And then they're looking for a corporate sponsorship. So $1,000 to sponsor a hole. So, we're looking into seeing what we could do for Mark. Looking into seeing what we can do always to support mental health and suicide prevention. And you could go on this link right here, show pass for the 10th annual Evan Scoron Memorial Golf Tournament. I think I talked about it. I don't know. Is there anything else I missed, Sheldon? Like anything you can add, even on the mental health aspect?
Just from my standpoint is this: like, to lose a kid, it doesn't matter if they're 2 months, 2 years, 20, 30. I mean, you lost a kid, and that's something I don't think any parent is ever going to ever be prepared to deal with. Yeah. But I like this move here by building a legacy around it, turning it into something positive, because there's a lot of good things in life too. A lot of this suicide is just the result of losing the battle with the demons, like the mental illness left unchecked, or even when you try to treat it, something went wrong in this young man's life. Yeah, and I think this is a great way to honor it, to share the story, to get rid of, like, it's an icky subject, Chev. I don't like talking about this. Like, I don't. But I've learned over the last couple of years. You know what? Just call it like it is. Say it what it is. It's something that families have to deal with. And I think if we can do one part, is to make sure that that we continue to do that, and that we don't hide our eyes, stare at our shoes every time it gets brought up, and that we really promote people that are trying to make a difference. Yeah,
and I'm going to go further, Sheldon. I'm sure this family is dealing with the exact same ripple effect of the loss of life that many other families are dealing with. I know from experience what this can do to families. I know the devastating consequences and just collateral damage that this does. Doesn't matter if the person was a son, a father, a cousin, a brother. It's devastating. And every family experiences that. And to see a family that's experiencing that, but not only doing that, like you said, but taking that pain and saying, hey, we don't want, that's what he told me. He says, I don't want anyone to feel what we feel. We're raising awareness for this because we want people to move on. And the neat thing about this family, I'm going to add to this because I remember our conversation was great. It was short, but it was great. So all the proceeds go for the Center for Suicide Prevention, but they also have a scholarship for the, I believe it's the Grizzlies. What's one of the junior teams? Their son Evan played hockey. He was a high level hockey player, and he was a goalie. I believe it's the Grizzlies, or the Royals, one of those. And they sponsor a goalie. So every year they sponsor a goalie on the team and make sure that he's got all the gear and got a sponsorship or a bursary for school and all that. So I think that's fantastic. It's the type of community local thing that we would get behind. And I was more than happy to speak with him. In fact, I think Daryl's going to be speaking with him tomorrow, see what we can do. Love to have our mental health movement there, and we'll see how it goes. We even talked to him about maybe bringing our buddy Craig Hannum there in the future to do some training, and he was so excited about that idea. Yeah. So who knows where this goes, but the least we could do is lend support by talking about it, making sure that people know about it, and if you want to golf, go set up a foursome. If you want to sponsor it, it's a great event. We talked. I heard them talking about it on QR 770 with Sports Talk with Jock, and I said, you know what, I want to talk about it too because it matters. Absolutely. So I don't know where you want to take it after that. That is a good cause, and I'm going to be interested to see how the conversation with Daryl goes. Maybe this is something that we can play a part in the event. That would be very cool. Yeah. Well, I think the natural segue is I talked about QR, and QR is the home of the Stampeders, at least on the radio, with the Hall of Fame broadcast team of Jock Wilson, Mark Steven, and Greg Peterson. Those guys do a fantastic job, and they had a tough job the last few weeks. The Stamps weren't doing so well. things were looking abysmal. They lost against Montreal in the last second. They lost against Ottawa. That's two games season sweep by Ottawa, which is not supposed to be beating the Stampeders. Vernon Adams got hurt. Was he coming back? Is he dinged up? PJ Walker goes in. He's terrible. Oh my God! Is this the mid-season collapse?
Did you look at that as a mid-season collapse though? Because I know the one thing, it sucks because all we ever do is talk about quarterbacks in this league, but quarterbacks are important. I remember when Joe Fleming first signed back with the Stampeders, we were playing for Daly. Daly was our defensive coordinator, and defensively we were tight. I mean, we were good. Offensively that year, that was the Federic year, so we had his son playing, and I can't even remember who our starting quarterback was. Was it Marcus?
Marcus Crandall.
Things weren't going well. And after one of those, the captains call everybody in the locker room and you have a bitch out session and talk about the direction of the team and what you're going to do to stay more committed. And I remember walking out of that, and I was still a young player and all fired up. And Joe Fleming just looked at me. He goes, "Sheldon," he's like, "Dude, you can move mountains. You can get 2 sacks a game. It's not going to make any difference. We don't have a quarterback. You will not win in the CFL if you don't have a quarterback." And I guess when I look at what happened when Vernon Adams went down, I was a little concerned. I thought the defense could have tightened up a little bit more than they did. But you look at them; they were missing the 2 starting Canadian receivers. There's just it could have gone worse. This week you get a couple of the parts back, including Vernon Adams, and you know what? They look good. I think the Stamps are in really good shape. I think they made this game way harder on themselves than they had to. But the Stamps are looking good.
Well, and they have the greatest kicker in the history of the game, as far as I'm concerned right now. Rene Paredes, and he walks off, kicks a field goal, 28-27, and it was a big field goal. It was a big field goal
after missing some kicks too, and he's mentally strong enough to come through in the clutch.
But I'll tell you, I was a little bit worried too, because I told you I ran into him on the street. He seemed a little bit off, and that was before they announced he was out. And I was a big hey, I wasn't going to worry about it because I thought PJ Walker, I watched him in the NFL. I was very high on him, probably as high on PJ Walker as Trey Smith was on Trey Ford. And when I watched that game that he got to start, I was like, oh boy, if Vernon Adams doesn't come back, is this the beginning of the end? And you look a couple years ago when Trevor Harris got dinged up in Saskatchewan. Well, that was the end of Craig Dickinson's coaching career. When quarterbacks get hurt, coaches get fired. That's how it goes in many leagues. When quarterbacks suck, usually coaches get fired. Sometimes they survive a year or two. Dave Dickinson survived the Jake Mayer experiment, but a lot of times when you pick wrong, your ass is on the line. And Calgary. I was going to talk about Montreal in a second, but Calgary is very fortunate that Vernon Adams came back from this, and they look good. And like you said, they didn't do themselves any favors, but a win's a win, and a sweep over a pretty good Winnipeg Blue Bomber team. That's something. That's not something to take lightly. This is their first season sweep of the Bombers since 2016. So I'm excited that they're back in the driver's seat a little bit. I'm happy that they got that win because they needed it. They definitely. I'm not saying it's desperation, but you need it when you're on a slide and you're like, hey, wait a second, we're supposed to be beating teams like Ottawa, and now we don't. We're supposed to be beating teams like Montreal that have their backup quarterback, and we didn't. Well, wait a second. Now we're playing Winnipeg, and they got their starting quarterback. Whew, okay, let's do this, right? And they did. Yeah. So good teams find a way to win, and I think they're a good team. But, contrast to Montreal, when we talked about teams picking wrong, did the Alouettes pick wrong when they chose to trade Cody Fajardo? Because he walked in with a 1-17 and he balled out, and he looked like the Cody Fajardo that won the Grey Cup for the Alouettes, and he did it against the Alouettes.
You see, and that's a tough one. He's absolutely capable of starting in this league to this date. In fact, that was what was so frustrating for many Elks fans once you realize that Trey Ford was not quite ready to go yet. But he didn't trade Fajardo to start McLeod Bethel Thompson. Again, they were undefeated. They were on a roll with what's the young guy's name? The Anderson?
Davis Alexander.
Davis Alexander. He's a phenomenal young quarterback. I'd say they absolutely made the right decision. A hard one, It would have been nice to keep both quarterbacks, but sometimes that causes issues. No, it was the right move. You got McLeod Bethel-Thompson as your backup, but you just didn't think that you'd have to start him 4 weeks in a row.
No, and again, you have another game that finishes with a 1-point difference. Edmonton 23, Montreal 22, but Fajardo capped off that game-winning drive. This wasn't a game-winning field goal. That was that drive at the end with that wonderful pass to Kyron Julian Grant. Looked just like the same throw he threw out to what's his name? The twin. Philpott in the Grey Cup. Yeah. Look, just like the throw he had to Philpott to win the Grey Cup. I mean, he was possessed. He didn't lie about it. He said there was a little extra sauce in this game for him because he's going back. He obviously loves his old coach, Jason Moss. He knew it wasn't personal when he got traded, but there's a little bit of extra oomph. I'm sure, Sheldon, when you went back to Saskatchewan after you signed with the Stamps, you wanted to give it back, and you weren't even traded. I'd never been traded. I was a free agent too, but when I went back to Edmonton, you wanted to give it to them a little bit, and he sure did in Montreal. He proved out. Now, I guess the question for Trey is this the end of your man crush on Trey Ford? Because if we could do a montage clip of every time Trey Smith, our producer Trey Smith, freaked out about even the prospect of us saying that, you know what, if Trey Ford doesn't do well, they're going to bench him, like as if we were wanting him to be benched, like the inference that, you know what, this is how the league works. God, Trey, you were so defensive. It was like you were a mom protecting their young, and now Cody Fajardo is it. He is right now